The night market of Zorith was always alive with sound and color. Strange lights floated above the streets, selling everything from glowing fruits to illegal weapons. Traders shouted in strange voices, offering slaves, machines, and secrets. The air smelled of smoke, metal, and fear. Ethan Cross walked through the crowd with steady steps. He was a human far from Earth, a traveler who had seen many worlds. His coat was torn from old fights, and his boots carried dust from planets no one remembered. He was not here to buy. He was searching, though even he did not know for what. As he passed the cages lined along the alley, he felt anger rising in his chest. Inside the cages were different beings, some small, some tall, all treated like animals. Their eyes followed him, tired and broken. Chains rattled whenever they moved, and the sound cut through his heart. Then his eyes stopped on one cage. Inside was a small alien child, no older than 8 by human measure. She had silver skin that shimmered faintly under the neon lights. Her eyes glowed soft blue, but they were filled with fear. She was thin, almost starved. Her wrists were chained, and her back carried marks of whips. Ethan froze, his heart hammered. For a moment, the market noise disappeared. All he saw was her. Her lips trembled as she whispered something in a language he did not understand. But he did not need to understand words to know what she was saying. She was begging, not for food, not for money, but for freedom. A trader noticed Ethan staring. The alien man laughed with yellow teeth. "Human, you like the little one? Strong bloodline, rare species. She will obey. For you, only 200 credits." His voice was sharp, greedy. The crowd moved around them, ignoring the cruelty, as if this was normal. Ethan clenched his fists. His past came rushing back. He remembered war. He remembered children left crying after battles. He remembered promises he made to himself, that if he ever saw chains again, he would not turn away. The child looked at him again. Her eyes seemed to plead silently. Something inside Ethan snapped. He could not leave her here. He would not. He stepped closer. "Open the cage," he said. His voice was calm but dangerous. The trader frowned. "Credits first, human." But Ethan's hand moved fast. He pulled out a small blaster from under his coat. The barrel gleamed in the neon glow. The crowd gasped, stepping back. "Open it," Ethan repeated. The trader hesitated. His eyes darted left and right, searching for guards. But Ethan's glare was unshakable. Slowly, the trader unlocked the cage. Chains rattled as the door opened. The child shrank back, fear in her glowing eyes. She had been tricked before, sold, beaten, lied to, but Ethan crouched low, holding out his hand. His voice softened. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." For a long moment, nothing happened. The crowd whispered, waiting to see if the human was mad enough to risk death for a slave. Then, slowly, the child reached out with her chained hands. Her small fingers touched his. Ethan grabbed her gently, lifting her out of the cage. She was so light it hurt him to feel her bones. He set her down beside him, still holding her hand. The trader shouted, "Guards! Guards!" His voice was shrill. The sound echoed through the market. From the corners, armored enforcers began to march in, weapons ready. The child trembled, looking up at Ethan with wide eyes. She thought he would let go and run. Everyone always ran, but Ethan tightened his grip. "Stay close," he said firmly. The guards shouted warnings, aiming their rifles. The crowd scattered in fear. Lights flickered as alarms rang out. Ethan raised his blaster. His heart was calm. His decision was made. The first shot cracked through the air, red light cutting across the street. Ethan pulled the child behind him, dodging fire. He returned fire with steady aim. One guard fell, then another. The market turned into chaos, traders running, stalls falling, flames rising. The child clung to his coat, her chains still dragging. Ethan fought like a man with nothing to lose, but everything to protect. His eyes burned with fire. His movements were sharp, ruthless. He was no longer just a traveler. In this moment, he was her shield, her only hope. Finally, after a storm of blasts and screams, silence fell. Smoke rose from broken stalls. Guards lay scattered. The trader had vanished into the shadows. Ethan lowered his weapon, breathing hard. He turned to the child, who stared at him in shock, her glowing eyes wide with fear and wonder. She whispered again in her unknown language. But this time Ethan understood her meaning. Even without words, she was asking, why? He knelt in front of her, brushing dust from her silver hair. His voice was low, almost a whisper, because no child should live in chains. The child's lips trembled. For the first time in her life, she felt something she had never known before, hope. And in that burning market, under the strange lights of Zorith, a bond was born, a promise that would change both their lives forever. The alarms of the Zorith market screamed like angry sirens. Red lights flashed over broken stalls and burning stands. The smell of smoke and melted metal filled the air. Guards shouted orders as more footsteps rushed in from every side. Ethan held the alien child close. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the chaos, and her thin arms clung to his coat. The chains around her wrists clattered as they moved. The sound was a cruel reminder of what she had suffered, but it also made her more afraid. Every step she took was heavy with fear. "Stay with me," Ethan said, his voice low but steady. His eyes scanned the dark alleys ahead. He needed a way out before more soldiers closed the net. Blaster fire cracked again. Red beams hissed past his head. Ethan turned and fired back. His aim was sharp, his movements fast. He was not fighting for money or honor. He was fighting for her life. He pulled the child down a narrow passage, broken walls on each side. The crowd had scattered long ago, leaving behind silence and smoke. Only the sound of boots echoed behind them, heavy and fast. The guards were hunting. The child whispered something in her strange language. Her voice trembled. Ethan could not understand her words, but her tone was clear. She was asking if they would die. He looked down at her glowing eyes and shook his head firmly. "Not tonight," he said. They reached a collapsed wall. Beyond it lay the ruins of an old building. Ethan lifted the child and pushed her through a gap. She crawled out, her small frame fitting easily. Ethan followed, rolling under falling dust. Inside, the ruins were dark, broken by shafts of moonlight that fell through cracked ceilings. Old machines lay scattered, forgotten and rusting. It was a graveyard of the past, and now it was their hiding place. Ethan crouched beside the child, listening. He heard the guards searching outside, shouting orders. The sound of scanning drones buzzed overhead. Their time was running out. He reached for the child's wrists, studying the chains. They were heavy, but not unbreakable. He pulled a small tool from his belt and began working on the locks. The child flinched when he touched the chains. Her memories of pain were fresh, but Ethan's voice was calm. "Easy, it's just me." After a few clicks, the first shackle snapped open. Her arm shook free. She stared at him in disbelief, as if freedom was something too strange to understand. He broke the second lock, and the chains fell to the ground with a dull clang. The child rubbed her wrists, staring at the red marks left behind. For the first time, she was unchained. Ethan gave her a small smile. "Better?" She nodded slowly, her eyes wide. There was no word in her language for gratitude strong enough, but the look she gave him said everything. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed. Metal boots on stone. The guards had found their trail. Flashlights swept across the ruins. Ethan grabbed the child's hand again. "Move," he whispered. They crawled through shadows, slipping behind broken walls. The child tried not to breathe too loud. Her small heart pounded so hard she thought the soldiers would hear it. One guard's light beam passed inches from their faces. Ethan froze, holding the child against his chest. His hand covered her mouth gently. The soldier paused, scanning. For a moment, it felt like the end. Then, the guard turned away, shouting to his partner. Ethan exhaled slowly. He stood and moved quickly, guiding the child to another exit. They slipped into the back streets of Zorith, where broken towers leaned like skeletons. The night wind carried dust and smoke, but also a chance of freedom. They ran through the ruins, dodging rubble. Ethan's legs were strong, but the child stumbled often. Her body was weak, too used to chains. Each time she fell, Ethan picked her up without slowing. She was not a burden. She was the reason he kept running. Behind them, the city roared with alarms. Ships lifted from landing pads, their searchlights cutting across the night sky. The hunters were not giving up. Ethan led her toward the outer wall of the city. He knew once they crossed, they could vanish into the wastelands. It would be harsh, but safer than the cages. They reached the wall, tall and rough. Lights swept across it, drones circling. Ethan studied the patrols. He had one chance. He crouched beside the child, looking into her glowing eyes. When I say run, you don't stop, understand? She hesitated, fear in her face, but she nodded. The moment came when the lights turned away. Ethan lifted her, pushing her up first. She scrambled to the top, pulling with all her strength. Ethan climbed after her, muscles burning. A shout rang out. The guards had spotted them. Beams of red fire cut through the night. Ethan shielded the child with his body, dragging. The wastelands outside Zorith stretched like a broken desert. The ground was cracked. The wind carried fine dust that stung the eyes. In the distance, burned towers stood like teeth against the horizon. Ethan and the child moved quickly, but every step felt heavy. The city behind them was alive with alarms, red lights flashing in the sky as patrol ships began their search. The hunters were coming. The child stumbled often, her small body weak from years of chains. Ethan slowed only to lift her again. His arms carried her as if she weighed nothing. Her glowing eyes watched the sky with fear. The sound of engines hummed above, louder with every passing minute. They won't stop, Ethan muttered. His voice was low, more to himself than to her. He had stolen what they valued. Not money, not weapons, but life. A life they believed they owned. The girl whispered something in her strange tongue. Her voice was soft, shaking. Ethan crouched, setting her down gently. He touched his chest, then pointed at her. Name? She hesitated, then whispered. Lyra. Her voice cracked, as if she was not used to saying it aloud. Lyra. Ethan repeated. The name felt right. He gave a small nod. I'm Ethan. Her eyes widened slightly. She clutched his sleeve, repeating softly. Ethan. For the first time, there was something new in her voice. Trust. But the moment was short. A bright beam of light swept across the ground. A patrol drone had spotted them. Its engines roared as it descended, weapons clicking into place. Run! Ethan shouted, grabbing Lyra's hand. They dashed across the wasteland, the drone firing bolts of red light that tore the ground behind them. Dust and rock exploded. Heat burned their backs. Lyra cried out, but kept running, her small legs moving as fast as they could. Ethan pulled his blaster and fired upward. His shots cracked the drone's armor. Sparks burst, but it kept chasing. Its sirens screamed into the night, a signal to the hunters. Within minutes, more lights appeared on the horizon, speeders carrying armed soldiers. The chase had truly begun. Ethan knew they could not outrun machines on open ground. He looked around desperately. His eyes caught sight of broken ruins to the east, sharp cliffs rising with shadows at their base. It was their only chance. He lifted Lyra in his arms and ran toward the cliffs. The speeders closed in, dust clouds rising behind them. Soldiers shouted orders, their voices cold and sharp. Ethan fired again, dropping one rider. The others spread out, surrounding them. At the cliff base, Ethan found a narrow path between rocks, barely wide enough for a child. He pushed Lyra inside. Go, stay low. She obeyed, crawling into the shadows. Ethan turned to face the hunters. Blaster fire lit the night. Ethan dodged behind stone, returning fire with calm focus. Every shot counted. He moved like a man who had survived wars before, his coat ripped, dust and blood mixing. But he held the line. Inside the passage, Lyra pressed her hands against the rock, tears in her eyes. She wanted to run back, to help, but fear held her. All she could do was whisper his name. Ethan. A soldier climbed the rocks, trying to flank. Ethan spotted him too late. The soldier raised his weapon. A sudden flash of light burst from the shadows. Lyra, her hands glowed bright blue. A strange energy cracked the air. The soldier was thrown back, crashing into the dust. Ethan's eyes widened. He looked at her in shock. Her small body shook. She had no idea what she had done. Her alien gift had awakened in fear. Ethan gave her a nod. Good. Now stay down. The soldiers hesitated, whispering to each other. They had not expected the child to fight back. Ethan used their hesitation, firing again. He dropped two more before they pulled back, calling for air support. The wasteland grew quiet for a moment. Only the wind and Lyra's fast breathing filling the air. Ethan moved to her side, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're stronger than you know," he said. She looked up at him with wide eyes, still shaking. He smiled faintly. "But strength means nothing unless we survive. Come." They pressed deeper into the cliffs, the sound of speeders fading, but the sky above still burned with lights. The hunters were not done. They would send more, stronger ones. Ethan knew it. He also knew that every second they bought was a chance for Lyra to live free. He glanced at her again, this fragile child with glowing eyes who had called him by name. She was no longer just a rescued stranger. She was becoming his responsibility, his family. The chase was far from over, but Ethan made a silent vow as he led her through the dark rocks. He would not let her be chained again, not while he still breathed. The cliffs gave them shelter for the night. Broken stone walls rose like jagged teeth, hiding them from the patrol ships above. The air was cold, and the silence heavy. Only the wind whistled through the cracks. Ethan built a small fire from dry scraps, its faint glow barely enough to keep them warm. He sat against the stone, his blaster close at hand. His eyes stayed sharp, scanning the shadows. But when he looked at Lyra, his heart softened. The girl sat close to the flames, her silver skin reflecting the firelight. She held her thin knees to her chest. Her glowing eyes stared into the flames, empty but curious. She was free now, but freedom was strange to her. She did not know how to sit without chains. She did not know how to sleep without fear. Ethan noticed her trembling. He reached into his coat and pulled out a ration bar, simple human food. He broke it in half and held it out. "Eat," he said gently. Lyra hesitated, sniffing the food. Her face twisted in confusion. She took a small bite, chewing slowly. Her eyes widened. It was bland to Ethan, but to her it was something new. Food not given with pain. Food not used as control. She ate quickly, as if afraid it might vanish. Ethan smiled faintly. "Easy, there's more tomorrow." She looked at him, her lips parting as if she wanted to speak. Finally, she whispered, "Thank you." The words were rough, her tongue struggling with human speech, but Ethan understood. The silence stretched. Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was soft, uncertain. Ethan leaned back, staring into the fire. "Because no child should live in chains." His tone was steady, but his eyes carried shadows of memories. Lyra touched her wrists, the red marks still fresh. She did not fully believe in kindness yet. She had never known it. But when Ethan placed his coat around her small shoulders, she felt warmth she had never known before. That night, she leaned closer to him. Her head rested against his arm. Her breathing slowed. Ethan stayed awake, listening to the distant hum of patrol ships. But inside, something shifted. He was not protecting her because she was helpless. He was protecting her because she mattered. By dawn, they moved again. The cliffs ended at a valley filled with old ruins, toppled towers from a forgotten war. Ethan guided her carefully. The ground was unstable, metal bones of machines scattered everywhere. Lyra began to ask small questions in broken words, pointing at things. "What?" she said, touching a rusted robot head. Ethan answered patiently, teaching her simple human words: machine, sky, stone. She repeated them, sometimes wrong, sometimes perfect. Each word made her smile. For the first time, Ethan heard her laugh, soft and light. When he slipped on loose rubble, she covered her mouth quickly, afraid she had done something wrong. But Ethan chuckled too, shaking his head. "It's all right. Laughter is good." The moment was fragile but real. A bond was forming, stronger than the chains that once held her. But peace never lasted long. Distant engines echoed again. Hunters had not given up. Ethan pulled her close. "Stay near," he whispered. They moved faster, slipping into deeper ruins. They found shelter inside a collapsed tower, its walls still strong enough to block scanners. Ethan set her down, scanning the horizon. He knew the hunters would never stop. They would chase them across planets if needed. Lyra was valuable to them. But to him, she was more than value. She was family, though he had not spoken it yet. Inside the tower, Lyra tugged on his sleeve. Her glowing eyes looked up at him. "Father," she whispered. The word slipped out by mistake, her voice shaking as if she regretted saying it. Ethan froze, his chest tightened. He looked at her fragile frame, her hopeful but scared eyes. Slowly, he placed his hand on her head. If you want me to be, he said softly. Her lips curved into the smallest smile, a smile that lit her entire face. She leaned into his side, and for the first time, she felt safe. Ethan knew the road ahead would be filled with danger, but in that moment, under the broken roof of the old tower, he made a silent promise. He would protect her as his own. And no army, no chains, no hunters would ever take her away again. The ruins gave Ethan and Lyra cover for days. They moved carefully, always staying low, always listening for the hum of patrols. Lyra grew stronger each day. She stumbled less, laughed more, and learned new human words. But the hunters never stopped. Their shadow hung over every sunrise. One evening, while searching for supplies near the edge of the wasteland, Ethan spotted a small trading post hidden among broken towers. Its lights flickered weakly, and smoke rose from a fire pit. A handful of travelers sat outside, eating and talking. Ethan hesitated, but they needed food and information. Lyra's thin body needed rest. He decided to risk it. He approached with calm steps, keeping one hand near his blaster. The trader who greeted him was a tall alien with pale skin and many rings on his arms. His voice was smooth, too smooth. "Welcome, human traveler. You look tired, hungry. Perhaps I can help." Ethan studied him carefully. "We need food, water, and a way out of Zoratha's patrol zone." The trader's eyes narrowed when he noticed Lyra hiding behind Ethan's coat. Her glowing eyes gave her away. The trader smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Ah, I see. That child is rare." Ethan's hand tightened on his blaster. "She's not for sale." His tone was sharp. The trader raised his hands. "Peace, peace. I mean no harm. In fact, I can help you. I know a route through the old tunnels. It will take you beyond the patrol lines. No one will find you there." Lyra peeked out from behind Ethan, studying the trader. She felt uneasy. His smile was too wide, too practiced, but Ethan, tired and desperate for a safe passage, allowed himself to consider it. That night, the trader led them to a warehouse near the edge of the ruins. The place smelled of oil and rust. Old cargo crates lined the walls. "You can rest here," the trader said. "At dawn, I will take you through the tunnels." Ethan nodded, settling Lyra onto a soft blanket he found inside. She curled against him, whispering, "Safe?" Ethan brushed her hair gently. "Safe," he said, though his gut twisted with doubt. Hours passed, the silence of the warehouse broken only by the crackle of rats in the shadows. Ethan dozed lightly, his blaster still in hand. Lyra slept soundly for the first time in days. Then it came, the heavy stomp of boots outside. Voices barked orders. The doors slammed open. Soldiers poured in, rifles raised. Ethan's eyes snapped open, fury in his chest. He turned toward the trader standing behind the soldiers, smiling coldly. "Business is business. Human, do not blame me. They offered more than you ever could." Lyra woke with a scream, clutching Ethan's arm. Soldiers rushed forward. Their weapons glowed. Ethan pushed Lyra behind him, firing first. Red bolts lit the dark. Crates exploded. Shadows danced. The battle was chaos. Ethan moved like fire, his blaster burning holes through the enemy line. But there were too many. Every time one fell, two more pushed in. Lyra crouched low, covering her ears, tears running down her silver cheeks. A soldier grabbed her arm. Yanking her up, she cried out. Ethan roared, slamming into the soldier, breaking his grip. He shot another, his eyes blazing with rage. "Don't touch her." But for every victory, he lost ground. Smoke filled the air. The roof cracked. The traitor laughed. "You cannot win. Give her to them, and maybe they let you live." Ethan aimed at him, firing without hesitation. The traitor fell with a scream, his greed ending in silence. But the soldiers were still coming. Just when Ethan thought the end had come, Lyra's fear broke into power. Her glowing eyes flared brighter than ever. Her hands shook, releasing waves of energy. A blast of blue light swept across the warehouse. Soldiers flew back, crashing into walls, their weapons fried, sparks raining down. The room fell silent, smoke and dust hanging in the air. Ethan turned to Lyra, her small body trembling. She had fainted, the power draining her strength. He caught her before she hit the ground, holding her close. He carried her through the chaos, stepping over fallen soldiers, His chest burned, his body weak, but his grip on her never loosened. Outside, the night air was sharp, the stars above cold and endless. Ethan whispered to her sleeping face, "No more betrayals. I swear, I will never trust anyone with you again." He walked into the darkness, his heart heavy, but his resolve harder than steel. The galaxy would not stop hunting them, but neither would he stop protecting her. For Ethan Cross had made his choice. She was no longer just a rescued child. She was his daughter, and he would fight the whole universe to keep her safe. The night stretched endless as Ethan carried Lyra through the ruins. Her body was weak, her glowing eyes closed. The power she unleashed had drained her. He moved quickly, knowing the soldiers would regroup. The betrayal had taught him a hard lesson. There was no safe place left. By dawn, he reached the edge of the wasteland. Ahead lay an old landing yard. Broken ships scattered like bones. Some were rusted beyond use, others half buried in sand. But one still hummed faintly with power, a small freighter forgotten by time. Ethan lowered Lyra inside, laying her gently on a seat. She stirred, whispering his name. He brushed her hair back. "Rest. I'll handle this." She nodded weakly, trusting him completely. He worked fast, repairing systems with hands trained by years of survival. Sparks flew as he reconnected wires. The ship groaned like a beast waking from sleep. Engines coughed to life, their glow faint but real. But before he could celebrate, a shadow fell across the landing yard. Patrol ships descended, sleek and armed. Soldiers poured out, their armor shining under the sun. Their leader stepped forward, his voice cold. "Give us the child. Human. She belongs to us." Ethan stood in the doorway of the freighter, blaster in hand. His voice cut like steel. "She belongs to no one." The soldiers advanced, rifles raised. Ethan fired first. His shots tore through the air, dropping the front line. Explosions echoed across the yard. Smoke rose in thick clouds. Lyra woke, her small body shaking as she saw the battle outside. "Stay down," Ethan shouted, firing again. He fought with fury, every move sharp, precise. His past as a soldier burned through him. But there were too many. They circled from all sides. The freighter shook under their fire. Inside, Lyra's fear grew. Her hands glowed faintly. She remembered the power she had used before, but it frightened her. What if she hurt Ethan? What if it consumed her? Yet when she saw him fall to one knee, blood on his arm, her fear turned to fire. She stepped forward, her glowing eyes blazing bright. "No," she cried. Her voice echoed, power surging from her hands. A wave of blue energy burst out, striking the soldiers. Weapons shattered, ships cracked. Soldiers were thrown back like leaves in a storm. Ethan shielded his face from the blast, staring in awe. Lyra stood at the center, her small frame shining like a star. Her chains were gone, her fear gone. Only strength remained. When the energy faded, silence fell. The patrol yard was wrecked, soldiers scattered unconscious, ships burning. Lyra swayed, almost falling, but Ethan caught her in his arms. He held her close, whispering, "You did it. You saved us." She looked up at him with tired eyes, whispering one word, "Family." Ethan's chest tightened. He kissed her forehead softly. "Yes, family." But the fight was not over. In the distance, more ships rose, larger, stronger. The enemy would not stop until they had her back. Ethan knew it. He carried Lyra into the freighter, sealing the door. His fingers flew across the controls. Engines roared louder, shaking dust from the ground. The ship lifted, rising into the sky as enemy fire rained down. Ethan pushed the throttle, weaving through beams of light. The freighter groaned but held together, breaking free of the atmosphere. Stars filled the window. Ethan looked at Lyra, asleep in his seat, her face peaceful despite the chaos. He tightened his grip on the controls. "They'll chase us across the galaxy," he muttered. "But they'll never take you. Not while I'm breathing." The freighter vanished into the starry void, smoke trailing behind. Behind them, the planet of Zorith burned with anger. Ahead of them lay danger, but also freedom. For the first time, Ethan believed they could win, not just survive, but truly live, together. The freighter drifted through the stars, its engines hummed softly, carrying Ethan and Lyra away from the burning world of Zorith. Behind them lay fire, betrayal, and chains. Ahead lay only uncertainty. Yet for the first time, Ethan felt something more than survival. He felt purpose. Lyra slept against his arm, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dim cabin light. Her small breaths were steady now, no longer filled with fear. She was free, truly free. Ethan looked at her and knew he had not only rescued her, he had rescued himself. Days passed as they traveled through hidden routes, avoiding patrols. Ethan scavenged fuel, traded carefully on backwater stations, always watching for spies. But every risk was worth it when he saw Lyra laugh for the first time without fear. She discovered simple joys, drawing shapes on the ship's dusty windows, tasting sweet human fruit, asking endless questions about stars and planets. Ethan answered each one patiently, teaching her simple human words. Sometimes she called him Ethan, but more often now, she called him Father. Every time, the word struck deep in his chest, warming wounds no medicine could heal. At last, after weeks of running, the freighter approached a small human colony on the edge of the galaxy, a quiet settlement on a green world with wide fields and forests. It was far from Zorith, far from slavers and hunters, the place where Ethan had once thought he would grow old alone. Now, it would be different. When they landed, people gathered, curious about the strange girl by Ethan's side. At first, there was fear. Whispers spread, "She's alien. What if she's dangerous?" But Ethan stood tall, his hand resting protectively on Lyra's shoulder. His voice was steady. "She is my daughter. She belongs here." The colony leader, an older woman with sharp eyes, studied them both. For a long moment, silence hung heavy. Then she nodded slowly. "If she is yours, she is ours too." The crowd murmured, the fear slowly fading. Lyra hid behind Ethan's coat at first, nervous under their stares. But when a child from the colony approached and offered her a simple flower, she blinked in surprise. Her glowing eyes softened. She took the flower gently, her lips curving into a shy smile. The other children laughed and welcomed her, pulling her to play. Ethan watched as she ran for the first time without chains, her silver skin shining under the sun, her laughter echoing through the fields. It was the sound of freedom. That night, as the colony lights glowed under the stars, Ethan sat by the fire. Lyra curled beside him. She leaned against his chest, holding the flower she had been given. Her voice was soft but certain. "Home." Ethan wrapped his arm around her, his eyes wet though he did not weep. "Yes, Lyra, home." The stars above stretched endless. But Ethan no longer feared the chase. He knew enemies might come again. He knew danger was never gone. But he also knew that together they were stronger than chains, stronger than fear. Lyra was no longer a slave, no longer a child of sorrow. She was family. She was his daughter. And Ethan Cross, a man who once walked alone through endless wars, had finally found what he never thought possible: a reason to fight, a reason to live, a reason to love. Not just survival, but family, forever.